Hello everyone, welcome to the Gradle Summit 2015. Thanks for coming. We have the best lineup ever and we have been all looking forward to this event. So before we get to the heart of this year's keynote, I want to look back to what happened since the last summit. A lot of cool stuff has been added to the Gradle build platform, but I want to talk first about some of the great changes that happened within the Gradle ecosystem, particularly with Gradleware. So we relocated our headquarters from Berlin to San Francisco. We are now a member of HeavyBit, an accelerator solely for companies focused on developer platforms, a great place to work on and to evolve the Gradle platform further. Yeah, as part of that, I moved with my family from Berlin to Berkeley, just with a few suitcases and the Gradle source code in my pockets. Seriously, the Bay Area is the perfect place to run our company from. It's invaluable to be here, and we are all super happy about the move. Very important move for us, and I think also for the Gradle platform to be in the epicenter. We have a new community site. Check this out at discuss.gradle.org. I think a big improvement to what we had before. More important, there's a new company behind Gradle. It replaces Gradleware. Same people, same culture, new name. Gradleware is now Gradle Inc. The new company name wouldn't be half as much fun without the right domain. So we now own Gradle.com. And we will put it to very good use, as you're going to see later. We moved most of the Gradleware content to Gradle.org, including our service offerings. Gradleware.com is now redirecting to Gradle.org. Gradle.com serves a different purpose. New Twitter handle for all things Gradle and Gradle Inc. Guess what the name is? Spot on, yeah, it's at Gradle. And this is all extremely good news for us. It makes communication so much easier. It was surprising for me to see how even an obvious variation of the name Gradle, like Gradleware, creates a big disconnect for the people not so involved in the space. So we fortunately could acquire all the necessary assets, so that this is now history. There's one other thing I'm very, very thrilled by. We have a new brand, as you have seen to some degree. And anyhow, this is how it looks like. The Gradle fan bringing build happiness. And finally, we have stickers. Let me put one right now on my machine to celebrate that event. Build happiness. Hey. The Gradle fan brings build happiness. And the slogan build happiness has multiple important meanings. Right? It is the build master with Gradle fan superpowers who needs to do hard, complex, sweaty work to build happiness for the developers. Not all build teams see developer happiness as part of their job, believe it or not. For us, it is one of the very reasons why we created Gradle. But build happiness is also about putting developers in a much better place by a better build infrastructure to build happiness for their users. And finally, it is also our commitment to you. I was always looking forward to having a logo that we are very fond of and that represents our energy and our culture. We could get hold of a world-class designer to create our logo, Yi Ying, the creator of the famous Twitter fail whale. I guess most of you know that design. And there's a lot of fun stuff we can do with the Gradle fan. Please enjoy some of the Gradle fan adventures. Elephant graveyard. That's a topic for later. It is a dangerous and challenging world out there for us build people. Sometimes you have to be an angry Gradle fan. Anyhow, next you can see how the Gradle fan incarnates for our major platforms, the Android fan, the Java fan, and the C++ fan, a new happy member of our family. So we can't wait to explore this even more, to hear your ideas and see your variations out in the wild. So that's very exciting stuff. Next topic. A lot of great new people joined Gradle Inc. We more than doubled our size in the last year. That's it. So, and most of them are here. So great people to connect with. Finally, I'm very happy to say that we are now backed by some of the best VC firms in the Valley, something we are going to announce in all detail next month. So we have entered a new phase as a company, which goes together with an astonishing growth in Gradle adoption. We had 5.4 million downloads in 2014 and 800,000 downloads just in May 2015. So that's pretty amazing success. And I feel deeply grateful to our wonderful community, the evangelism we get, the pull requests, and particularly all the plugins that are created from the community are a key part of the value proposition of the Gradle platform. There are now 406 community plugins in the Gradle plugin portal. Some of the authors are here and can count hundreds of thousands of downloads. There are many more plugins in existence that are not in the portal yet. All of that is a big reason for the huge number of out-of-the-box integration capabilities that Gradle now has with other technologies. So when we put the list together, and it's not complete, we were surprised ourselves. So if you just look at this wall of icons of all the technologies you have Gradle integration with, and it's getting more and more. We talk about some other great new integration in a few minutes. So we talked about the community and the ecosystem. There is a special part in that ecosystem I want to talk about here. Gradle would not be the success it is without the amazing alliance that is nurturing and backing it. So this here is our family event, right? So I see the LinkedIn folks there with its many, many contributions, continuously pushing us and sponsoring scalability work for Gradle, and also contributing now massively to its horizontal breadth. Just look at their talks, Gradle for Scala Blade, where we're working on closely together, Gradle for the Hadoop ecosystem, Gradle for Python, and Gradle for JavaScript, as you can see in a couple of slots. So there's Netflix. Where are you? Here we go. And with their massive suite of Nebula open source Gradle plugins, including things like dependency management additions like the log plugin, the blacklisting and whitelistings, adding help where we hadn't the bandwidth yet to do stuff like the fixture they provide for plugin testing. Amazing contributions. They have 2 talks tomorrow on that. There is, of course, Google, who really innovated with its Gradle Android plugin the way how you describe modern software applications, and is our close partner in evolving the next major version of Gradle with the new configuration and software model. There's a talk about that tomorrow by the Android folks. And there's now Unity Technologies with whom we are working on evolving the Gradle C++ capabilities in very exciting ways. They're giving a talk tomorrow on their migration process towards of their very intricate C++ stack towards Gradle. There are other great partners which as a general policy don't want to be disclosed. Anyhow, I can't tell you how excited, grateful and privileged we feel about those partners. It's very special, and together we made great progress, and we will be making even more progress in the future. And those partnerships are very successful for one major reason, because we all share the deep vision and the passion on how the software production process can be completely redefined and can push software delivery in the large on a new level with a better build and delivery tooling platform. And LinkedIn is a really good example for that. So Jens will be talking about the LinkedIn vision in this context in more detail in his keynote tomorrow. And it is not just Gradle features coming out of those partnerships. 2 weeks ago, in the keynote of the Google I/O conference, Google announced the Android Nano degree. It's a Udacity course, series of courses, and Google partnered with us to create a Gradle for Android and Java class as part of that degree. Let's check it out.
In this class, we'll learn to use Gradle to automate these processes, which makes software development so much more fun and so much more productive.
Anyone serious about making a business in Android or Java development should understand the complexities that in development will kill you if you don't automate. Welcome to Gradle and Android for Java. I'm Mark, a core engineer at Gradle.
And I'm Jeremy, a course developer at Udacity.
As our builds become increasingly more complex, we want to ensure that we don't redo any work that has already been done the last time we executed our build.
Gradle accomplishes this by tracking each task's inputs and outputs. Check out the documentation for the Java plugin and see if you can figure out which task Gradle would execute if the assemble task was run.
Who knows that? So yeah, Mark and Jeremy, you did an awesome job with that class. Where are you? Here. And, So this Udacity online class we have created with Google and Udacity is free, right? If you don't take it as part of the Android Nano degree. And within 1.5 weeks, almost 3,000 people have signed up for the class, and we haven't even started to promote it. And let me say one thing, Udacity is amazing. So I took some of their classes way before there ever was a topic of having a Gradle class up there, and I loved it. It is what online classes should be. Outstanding quality, outstanding experience, how to make online classes fun and digestible. So it's a perfect start into Gradle land. So much recommended for, I guess, for your developers and whoever might be interested in that. So the Udacity class is part of our mission to make it easier for people to get into Gradle, especially for folks that don't need all the power of the platform. So we have also started work to make it easier to work with the documentation, especially partitioning it better for different user profiles and to evolve the content. You should see results over the next few months of that work. Complementary to the Udacity class, we have completely reworked our training curriculum. Traditionally, we provided, I think, very good introductory and intermediate classes for build authors, and we still do that. As Gradle is a very deep platform, we now added a whole set of advanced classes, created and delivered by our folks, about extending Gradle, custom plugin development, advanced dependency management and multi-module builds, standardizing enterprise builds, and continuous delivery with Gradle in the context of Jenkins and binary repository managers. We also added one training just targeted for developers using Gradle that are not supposed to be build authors. So please share this with everyone who wants to get deeper into Gradle. Those classes may save them a lot of time and wasted effort. Let's switch focus. It used to be fun to make software, didn't it? Most of us, I guess, still vividly remember their first encounter with programming. So I do, very vividly, and it was an amazing creative flow, immediate feedback, and then we turned our passion into our profession. And now you work in a larger team. And we do a lot of consulting. I was doing a lot of consulting in the earlier days of Gradle. And the situation, how many developers in larger teams have to develop code is heartbreaking. The time it takes to see a change in action, the effort and time it takes to get an answer to an hypothesis, the effort it takes to collaborate and integrate specific output from other teams is often a complete disaster. And the list goes on and on. So the spectrum we see in the industry ranges from kind of okay, which is elite status, right, to a caricature of software development, including virus scanners scanning the build output directory and fully killing developer spirit in a way that turns them either into a zombie or they leave. Right? It is that bad. I've seen it many times. Humor is often the only way to deal with this, right? But in reality, it is tragic, and at least for people who love software development and for organizations that pay for it. So, and if that isn't hard enough of a problem, software is eating the world, which means the problem is getting worse, right? Massively growing code bases, and it also means more and more platforms to support. Check out the Unity talk tomorrow, and they will tell you about multi-platform support, right? 21, something like that. 22, here we go. Yeah, so, and they want it now, right? which means very frequent releases. Big Agile is not there yet, and I think we can all agree on that. Right? And the key reason for that is because the build infrastructure is not there yet. It is a key enabler for the problems and the solutions larger teams face with Big Agile. And this is a key part of our mission. And that is the key part we are working on together with many of you, and we are inviting everyone to join this effort. With every release of Gradle, we're making, I think, excellent progress to that goal. With every new partnership, we can get there faster. So let's talk now about some of the areas and capabilities that we have added recently or are going to add in the foreseeable future to make big software great again. The next Gradle release, 2.5, comes with a wonderful new feature called continuous mode. Luke is going to show what this is about in a second. Just want to mention that 2.5 will be available later this month. You can use the Gradle nightly to use that feature today if you want. And yeah, here we go, Luke.
Okay, so yeah, thank you, Hans. So continuous build or continuous mode available in 2.5, which is due out very soon. And this is a really great feature, something that I've been wanting for a very long time, and I'm sure everybody who's been using Gradle has been wanting it for a long time. So the idea is that I can run any build, Gradle, whatever task I want to run, with -- continuous or -t. So what I have here in front of me is a slide deck built with Gradle. It's an ASCII doctor thing, which is producing some HTML files that I have in my browser at the moment. So if I go to my terminal, to my Gradle build, and now I'm going to start this up. So here's my task that turns my ASCII doctor files into HTML. I run that once, not quite, getting ahead of myself there. Let's try that again. So, what have I done now? Okay. Jet lag doesn't help with these demos. Okay, so here I am, running the task with -t on the end or -- continuous, and now I'm running in continuous mode. So I've run through the build initially, and now it's going to sit there and wait for changes. So it's inspected the build model, it understands what the inputs and the outputs are to each task. We already have that information available for continuous build, and we use exactly the same data to make continuous work. So here is my slide deck. Here's my ASCII doc file that defines my slides. I can just go and change some of the content here. I hit save. Gradle sees that, goes and runs the build straight away, reproduces my files. I go and reload it in the browser. Wait for the slow network again. And I see my change there. So that's a generic feature that works across the board with any build that makes anything. I just run -- continuous with -t on the end, and it just works. It gets a little bit better. And this is kind of the first version of this that we have available. It works out of the box as mentioned there, but we're taking this a little bit further to add support for the kinds of things that a build might want to run and also might really take advantage of this. So what I've done now is I've loaded this up and I've added some extra functionality to the build to enable live reload, which is a mechanism by which something running can tell the browser, hey, something has changed. So if I go back here to my slide deck and I make some change, let's say I don't really like that background color anymore. I make the change, Gradle will see it, rebuild in the background, and when it is done, tell my browser to reload. So that's the kind of one example of a kind of functionality that can benefit from running a live server and having something change underneath it. So the live reload functionality is something that will be coming out soon, but the first platform that first-class platform that we've added support for is Play by TypeSafe. So coming very soon, likely in Gradle 2.6, we will have first-class support for Play. So here I have a Gradle Play application, and I'm going to start that guy up. in continuous mode. So it's compiled my application, started it up and running, and I have it running over here. So here is a play application, and I can go ahead and just change some Scala code. So here's my Scala controller for my application. Save that. Gradle sees the change, go ahead and compiles all the necessary Scala code. Then I can just go to my browser and reload that guy as well. So first class reloading support for the Play platform. This is the first one out of the box. The mechanism by which this works is something that will open up to other platforms over time. So I think this is a really great feature to really tighten the dev run lifecycle. So it's something we've all been wanting for a long time, and it's finally here in Gradle 2.5. So, thank you, Hans.
So there is a new project led by Gradle. It is called BuildShip, which is the Gradle integration for the Eclipse platform. It is going to be released with the next Eclipse release, and we have a partnership with the Eclipse Foundation. So we are now very excited that that Gradle support is part of the Eclipse platform, and we are also excited for having basically now owning a reference implementation that shows the amazing capabilities of Gradle for deep IDE integration. Android Studio is of course another exciting example for that, and IntelliJ Gradle support is also getting better and better. In any case, we love that we can basically drive the vision for deep Gradle integration with IDEs forward, and please welcome Etienne Studer, the project lead of BuildShip, for a quick demo.
Hello, thank you Hans for giving me the opportunity to briefly introduce BuildShip 1.0, as we are going to release it in 2 weeks with Eclipse Mars. The focus of BuildShip 1.0 is on the user, the Gradle user. So those users that are developers that want their project in Eclipse being set up for them based on an existing Gradle project. And then they want to see the tasks, they want to execute the tasks, and they want to see the progress and the feedback while they run these tasks. And I would like to briefly go through the motions of importing and running a Gradle build through Eclipse without ever having to leave the IDE, of course. So we'll start with the import. We have a wizard to do the import for Gradle projects that exist already. We give you some best practices right here if you want to see them. And then basically all you have to do is specify the root project directory of your project that you want to import, and that's it. And it will set up everything for you. If you want to, you can tweak it a little bit. You can define some working sets to which it is added. You can also define some advanced options. Maybe you want to use a different Gradle version than what's defined in your build, or some other advanced options. Typically, you don't have to touch it, but if you want to, we give you the opportunity. We can also give you a little preview of the context in which the build will be imported, like where's the Java home, where's the Gradle user home, what's the actual effective Gradle version that's used, and that's it. And then we can start the import. Okay, so let's do that. I trigger the import, and now based on the Gradle build information, our Eclipse projects are set up. So these projects, Eclipse projects, were created in our workspace for us, and also they were configured. So what happened really, we can look at one project. I imported Tooling Commons, which is a small library we make use of. We can look at the build path. So what we can see here is that BuildShip set up the sources for us. That was all communicated through the tooling API from our build. So as we have new source sets, they would show up here as well. And it also set up the project and external dependencies for us. These project and external dependencies we store in class path containers for those familiar with Eclipse, and we can take a peek into it, and we can see that it contains all the transitive closure of project and external dependencies, which makes it not necessary to do any re-exports and have any conflicts with different versions of libraries. And so basically we're now ready to go. I can close all this for a second. We have a working setup. We can write some code. We can write some tests. We can build. So it's all working. But at some point we want to run these tasks through Gradle. Right? We have a Gradle build, and for this we have the task view. So here in the task view, I will see all tasks for all projects that I have imported. We also use some icons, etc., so for easy recognition. And here in the task view, we can sort these tasks, we can filter these tasks, and we can of course run these tasks to go through it really quickly. So I can say, for example, let's make this a bit bigger. This resolution is so small, there's not much left to see. So I'll just do a clean build, and I do a clean such that a bit more happens. Usually you would just do a build, of course. And I can run these tasks. So as I run these tasks, we can see there's progress in our console, which is basically what you see on the command line as well. Right? It's the same. We have a little bit of color highlighting. There were some tests failing. There was a test was skipped. Basically what you know from the command line. Right? What happened here is it created a run configuration. This is baked-in concept of Eclipse. And I can also modify these run configurations. So I could go in here and I can further configure. Maybe I want to run exactly these tasks with a different configuration of a different Gradle version or whatnot. Basically the same configuration you had during the import, you can also use for an execution if you want to. Again, it's something you typically probably won't change, but if you need to, you can. All this is integrated into the run configurations framework of Eclipse, so you can see just like we have Java applications that we can have run configurations for, we have Eclipse, we have Gradle configurations that we can run. And it's persisted, shareable, can use path variables, etc. Okay. But we can do a bit better than showing our progress just as plain text like you are used to it from the command line. Because Gradle has such a rich model, some of that model information can be transferred to BuildShip during execution time, and we can display this in a richer way. So I'm going to do this again, run these tasks, and what we can see now is this executions view. Right, so in this execution view, we get a bit more information, or a bit richer information. So we can see it's structured as a tree, and we were running a build. The build failed. That's why it's red, and it's done on purpose. So we can see there were some scripts. The init scripts were initialized. The settings were evaluated, etc., etc. The task graph was populated. At some point, the tasks were executed. We can see every task that was executed. We can see if it was up to date or not. And we can also see that at some point, the test task was executed. And within the test tasks, the tests were executed. And so we can see here each test that was actually run. We can see if it failed or if it succeeded. Right, and so we saw there were many tests failing, or several. Let's go to this one down here. So I can say also, I can jump to the source file, of course. If I give it a bit more room, I can jump directly there. And we can also see the failure. And so here we see it's a Groovy test, so that the message looks maybe a bit unfamiliar to those just used to stack traces or JUnit error messages or assertion errors. But basically here we see more detail about what failed, what was wrong. Property was not supposed to be null. We can also see based on the icons if something failed or if something was skipped. And in general, for each task that failed, we can also see why did the task fail. Well, in this case it's obvious because the test failed, but still, let's see. So what was the task failure? We can see the full stack trace if you need this. And in this case of a test failure, we can even show the test summary that you're used to. So instead of copying this from the command line and opening it in the browser, you see it right here within Eclipse. We can also rerun a build, and we can stop the execution of a build while it's running, and we can have multiple of these executions open. We can also navigate from the execution view to the console view, etc. So there are many more details to it that I don't want to go into right now, but there is a presentation on BuildShip after this keynote, so if you want to know all the nitty-gritty details from project import to execution of tasks, you can see it in that presentation. So in short, that's how we're going to deliver BuildShip 1.0 as part of Eclipse Mars in 2 weeks. Oops.
As part of that, I'm very excited that Mike Milinkovic, Executive Director of the Eclipse Foundation, is joining us now for this keynote from Canada. He will tell us a little bit more about our partnership. Hi, Mike. How's it going? 1 second. We need to connect you.
So first of all, thanks everybody for having me join in on this call, and apologies for the AV confusion. But I wish I could be there in person, but actually I'm on a long planned vacation day today, so I was able to carve out an hour from my wife. So at some point, Hans owes my wife some flowers. I'm going to keep this brief, but I wanted to join a little bit and just talk about how we view the Gradle and Eclipse partnership. So if you could move to the next slide, please. Okay, so can you guys still hear me? I'm getting no feedback here at all. Okay, so we're on to the next slide. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. So the collaboration between Gradle and Eclipse started about 8 months ago when we approached Hans, asking him to bring Gradle support to the Eclipse IDE. You know, obviously we see Gradle as an incredibly fast-growing technology in the Java ecosystem, and having great Eclipse support for Gradle is crucial to our users. And we're starting with Java and with the BuildShip project, but hopefully other languages will occur down the road, because as I'm sure you're aware, we do have IDEs for C and C++ and other languages as well as part of the Eclipse community. So we're super excited to have Gradle as a new member of the Eclipse Foundation, and we really appreciate the support of Gradle. And we're also thrilled to welcome BuildShip as a new Eclipse project and welcome it to the Eclipse community. And we have really high expectations for the work that Etienne is doing. I saw a great demo there a few moments ago, and hopefully people will have a chance to see more in his talk later today. So next slide, please. So as you can see, we have about 2 million downloads a month happening at Eclipse these days. And so the scale of what we have here at Eclipse and the Eclipse open source community is very large. And we want to continue to see that growth and adoption of Eclipse IDEs continue to grow. So as I said earlier, you've got Java as a big part of what you're seeing on that download page, which is what this graph is showing. But we have obviously C and C++ and PHP and others in there as well. But about 75–80% of the downloads that we're getting are coming for our Java IDE for Java SE and the Java EE one as well. So next slide, please. So I think one of the things that really attracted this Gradle to join this partnership with the Eclipse Foundation is that over half of all Java developers, and particularly Java developers in the enterprise, are using either Eclipse or Eclipse-based products like Spring Tool Suite. And we have a great channel to market to developers through the Eclipse Marketplace, and obviously directly through our download page, so that Gradle has an opportunity to use Eclipse to deliver great Gradle tools to literally millions of developers through the Eclipse community. Next slide, please, and the final slide. So we have the Eclipse Mars release is shipping in about 2 weeks, and that's going to be actually our 10th simultaneous release. So that's the 10th year in a row where we've shipped as an open source community, which is actually, I think, we're quite unique in that regard, where we ship these big releases, and this is the 10th year in a row where we shipped it on time to the day. So as soon as we get Mars out the door, and BuildShip is going to be one of the key things that we're going to be talking about, and the Gradle support coming with the Mars release. As soon as that ships, our job together with Gradle will be to get these tools in the hands of millions of Java developers around the world. So we see having first-class Gradle support is something that we want to have to keep Eclipse front of mind with Java developers. And we've really enjoyed the partnership with Hans and Etienne and Miko, and we certainly look forward to continuing this in the future. And with that, thank you very much, and I'll turn it back over to Hans.
Obviously, build speed is a very important ingredient to Big Agile, right? And there are quite a few things I will mention in this context. Let me start with Gradle configuration time. This is the time it takes for Gradle to build the model and before it executes any task. We are aware that especially for larger and more complex projects, the Gradle configuration time took way too long. Who doesn't think so? So we made exciting progress with making this much faster, starting with Gradle 2.4. Let's look at some of the numbers. Those are some of our performance benchmark tests. It shows a large multi-module Java build where we execute 3 different things. Gradle help, which is a very good approximation for pure configuration time. Gradle task is not a good approximation for that, for your interest. It does much more. Then clean build one project, that is a partial build building only one project, and then obviously clean build all builds every of those 500 projects. And here's a comparison of the last versions of Gradle in terms of configuration and execution time. So an ugly regression in 2.3, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about 2.4. But even, if you compare it with any version of Gradle, it's a dramatic improvement, right? So, and who of you is already using Gradle 2.4? So about half, right? So all the other ones are really invited, and the numbers we got from the wild from our users fully confirming the significance of the 2.4 improvements. And I should say that although the core improvements are for the configuration time, there's some other stuff in there that also makes the pure execution time faster, right? So very exciting numbers. We have some more numbers from Android, which has a very complex configuration phase. The Android team also optimized the performance of the Gradle Android plugin itself. So together with the 2.4 improvements, the results are great, right? Often cut down in half for this 10 variant Android project. If you have an Android project with many variants, it's even more extreme, right? You see how long it took with the previous versions and to configure and to run a build, and this is now absolutely orders of magnitudes faster, or one order at least. So nonetheless, those big improvements in 2.4 is not what we consider the final solution, right? So let's check out how configuration looks like with the new upcoming Gradle configuration model. So this is now using 2.4 with the current Java plugin and with the new Java plugin that uses the new configuration model. And you see that we got configuration time down even by another very significant amount, by 1/3. And there is much more we can do. That's the good stuff, right? This is running code, right? But we spiked some other things like having some more lightweight task implementations, and the configuration phase is not in parallel yet. So we will get this down even further than what you see there. And the ultimate killer will be reuse of the model, which is already in the code base as an experimental capability, but needs more refinement to leverage the full potential. So we are much closer to the 0 configuration time we promised last year, even for very large builds. And that is exciting. And unfortunately, right, we made some good progress as an intermediate step. So that's very good news. Of course, performance is not all about configuration time. There's a lot on our roadmap that will make Gradle faster and faster, right? So we now have parallel task execution as incubating, still a secret switch, but it's it's there. We need to make some other stuff work to make it 100% reliable. I know LinkedIn, you made some tests with it, and for you it's working well, from what I understand. Subtask parallelism is an interesting one. So what we did together with the Unity folks is implementing a parallel compile for our CC++ plugin. And so basically, within a single Gradle task, you use parallelism to make things faster. And what we added there as a capability is that we can schedule that subtask parallelism with the overall parallelism you use in Gradle for executing tests and for running projects or tasks in parallel, so that they can sync on each other on how many processes or threads they can use. The other thing that is on the roadmap for this year is starting work on a global distributed build cache. Very important for C++, but every platform will benefit from that. And fully distributed builds is something we don't tackle this year. That's something we're going to tackle next year. So, looking very good. And yeah, and with every release, you will see the progress, or with every nightly. Oops, that's a funny one. So, another big part of Big Agile is dependency management. It is of utmost importance, right? Performance is a very important part, but this is a part as important. It is about the capabilities to model the cooperation between your teams, right? And with external parties, to balance integration pressure with stability, to have a reliable and reproducible class path, to have fluency with projects that you want to build yourself, and some you don't want to build yourself, to have influence which precise snapshot you want, depending on whether you're doing a dev or QA build. And that has always been a strength of Gradle, and we added a lot of exciting new features to make that even better over the last month. Right, so check out the Advanced Dependency Management talk later today, and also the talk Make Your Multi-Module Build Fluence about the new capability in Gradle 2.5 to replace transitively project with external dependencies and vice versa. It's a super cool feature for if you have large multi-module builds. The next big part of enabling Big Agile is a declarative software model. A declarative software model within a build is already one of the very contributions from Gradle to the build world. And we are putting this now on a richer foundation as part of the new configuration and software model to give it tremendous, very nuanced extensibility, to make it much faster to work with the model. That's part of the configuration time story, and to provide you more insights about the model and which parts of the builds influenced what part of the model. And also to use all the goodness for a rich software model, not just for Android and C++, but also for Java, especially for Java 9 with Jigsaw. That's very high on our agenda. To be able to model a Java component in terms of what is the API, what is the implementation, enforce those contracts, and things like that. Plus variant-aware dependency management. So, and this is a very important part about making it a pleasure for developers to use and describe the build in terms of their domain and not in terms of low-level build constructs, right? That is the big goal, right, of that. And either by Gradle shipping the model out of the box, or by giving you the tools to create your own declarative model for your custom requirements. Empowering developers to describe their build needs without overwhelming them with low-level build constructs is a key part of Big Agile and is a key strength of Gradle. So check out the talks on the new Gradle model, the rule-based configuration workshop today, the talks on C++, the Android talk tomorrow about the new experimental Android plugin using this model. There's a lot you can learn about that, and it's very exciting stuff. Okay, so because of all the delays, the keynote will go on a little bit longer. I would say another 15 minutes or so, but hopefully with stuff that you find very interesting. So with let's assume all that is implemented, right? A lot of that is on the horizon. Anything missing on our road to build heaven? So building modern software stacks is a very complex domain. Right. If you want to have a high degree of automation and want your developers to be productive. If not, it is as easy as Maven. And you will need a customized build infrastructure for that, right? Custom Gradle plugins for your custom requirements. You have many different builds. Everything is constantly evolving as you recruit new people, embrace new technologies, and reorganize, right? And you will have many, many build executions. LinkedIn has 300,000 Gradle build executions per year, month, week. 300,000. And so the questions we are asking ourselves is, how can we make it much easier for developers to learn why the build says that something is wrong with their changes, right? How can we make it much easier to fix a misbehaving build? How can we make it much easier for developers and build masters to work together to improve the software production infrastructure? And how can we make it much easier for build teams to detect and understand performance regressions and other quality of service issues across the organization? Those are problems that the Gradle build platform or any traditional build platform fundamentally can solve. And we need something else for that. We need a new way to work on that. And I want to introduce Gradle.com. So the goal is solve the problems I mentioned much, much, much faster than what you can do today. So when you see the demo I'm going to show, it is important to understand the product is well progressed, but the UI you will see is prototyped. Not everything is implemented yet. We're very interested in your feedback. So let's start. Let's start with a use case, right? So you're working locally on your build. You did some changes. You commit those changes locally. You successfully run a pre-commit build. You push to your Git master and get an email from Jenkins saying that the CI build is failing. So you go to Jenkins and you have exactly one friend, console output. Right, so, and then you look at the console output, right? It's often very hard to figure out for a developer what exactly is going on, right? And a lot of frustration and wasted time comes from that. So imagine data of every build is collected, CI or local, from every location of your organization, and it's available at Gradle.com. And in Jenkins, you would have a Gradle.com widget giving you some more information about what is wrong, but most importantly, providing a URL to give you that leads you to Gradle.com to give you more insight into your build. So let's go to Gradle.com. Oops, no. This completely. Let me. Need to no, technical problems are not. No, it doesn't. It's funny. Okay, here we go. No, you can't see anything. I can't see. This is a pre-recorded, and for some reason, I don't get the. I can't stop and start the video, which is kind of important for what I'm trying to do. So, okay, quick time. No, it doesn't work. Shit. Yeah, that's when you try this out with rehearse mode and then the play mode has completely different behavior. That's interesting. Okay, then what I'm going to do is even QuickTime is don't give. Here we go. Okay. So so let's assume now. Well, let's assume you don't see anything. So this is Gradle. This is the current incarnation of Gradle.com, right? As a running on my local machine, and so because we have some resolution problems, I first wanted to show you the dashboard that is collecting all the data of all the builds, and we call each of those rows a build receipt, right? For every build you get a build receipt. And so let's imagine now you click this link in Jenkins, and this would take you to the build receipt, right? And so the build receipt shows you, gives you all different kind of details about the task and the dependencies and the environment in which you execute the build. But what you're most interested in this case is the stack trace, right? So let's check the stack trace, and you could now directly, this is a link to the GitHub URL of this class, and so when you look at this stack trace, how many in your organizations, or do you have people in your organization that wouldn't know what the problem is? Yeah, some freshmen, right, started their life with Java 7 or Java 8. So if I raise my hand, I get killed by our folks. Whether you know what's going on already, or whether it already gives you some hypothesis, what you can now do is you can now look at the build receipt, and Gradle.com compares this build, right, with other builds that were built against the same code base, and they say, hey, there's a JDK change. This was from 1.8 of the other build to 1.6, and you can now click. See. Sorry. Usually you have now a 3-panel view. Because of the resolution we have here, we needed to tweak the application. But what Gradle.com shows you now are all the other builds that were built against the same code base. And that is my local build I executed 5 minutes ago. And I can now select this build. And to confirm my hypothesis, I can go down and I can see, okay, this local build that was successful was built against 1.8, CI build against 1.6. So here we go, problem is solved, right? And there's some other interesting information I can get about builds. For example, when you have some deprecation warnings or other warnings that are usually hidden in the console output, right? They are now, you now have a deep model of the build. You can click to see what's going on. So someone here tried to change a configuration after it was resolved. That's something that will fail in Gradle 3.0. You can learn about some deprecation warnings that we were using some deprecated method. And although the IDE would show you this, having this in the build receipts gives other people much more insight in how much deprecated methods are used, right? It's no longer hidden in your IDE. And there's other interesting stuff. So this was an example where with some knowledge about Java and looking at the console output, as inconvenient as it is, many would have figured out what the problem was, right? Let's look at something trickier. So same situation. I had a local build that was succeeding, and now I have a CI build that is failing, and I have no idea what is going on. So I look at the build receipt. I see, okay, some test is failing on CI, and then Gradle.com gives me an idea, right? It shows me, oh, you're using a dynamic version, and another build against the same code base, we're using 3.3.2, and you are using 3.3.3. That's interesting. So let's dive a little bit deeper into this. And you see again, that's my local build. And you can see, okay, the local build was using 3.3.2. Try to figure this out from the console output, especially when all the dependencies are in the cache. You don't see anything. You just have, right? When you're on a local build, you can at least do a dependency report. What do you do on CI, right? So that information is extremely valuable for developers feeling no longer stuck by the build. And I think this is something that creates a lot of friction between developers and build masters, although no one is really responsible for that, but frustration always creates friction. And I think getting developers unstuck with many of their problems with the build and their code, right? This is not a problem of the build, right? This is a problem that something is wrong with their code base. This will make life much, much easier. Okay, here we go. Back to the presentation. Wrong slide. So another example, you're running a local build and getting a weird exception, right? So what do you do with this exception? Some header parsing when untarring something, invalid byte 32 at offset 7. Who knows what is going on here? Well, I wouldn't. What now? What would you do now? What would be your... Google it, yeah, exactly. Yes, you might think, maybe some corruption while the tar was created, so you might check your tar file, try to recreate it, whatever, all different kind of stuff. So let's check out the build receipt, right? We have the URL right here, right? After every build, you will get a URL to the build receipt, and we see the build receipt for the failing build, and it says there is a forum solution on this problem. Interesting. Let's check this out. Let's click this link. And then we learn that this is a bug in Gradle 2.4. How much more would you have cursed us if this had taken you 5 hours to figure it out? So strictly speaking, it's a bug in good old end 194. So we upgraded from end 193 and to end 194, and they have a problem with untarring. So anyhow, in this discussion, you can quickly learn what you can do as a workaround and how you can fix the situation. So, and that is stuff we learned, of course, after the fact, after we have released 2.4. And what is important that when you're stuck, right, and many people are often stuck with the build, and when you're stuck and Gradle.com cannot give in any hint what is going on, right, you might want to ask for help. And one thing I always found extremely painful is discussing build problems when you're not co-located, right? It's an epic ping pong of what are your properties? Are you sure? Can you send me a report A? Please also send me report B. Can you run the build in debug mode and send me the output, and so on and so on. You get the story, right? And developers know how painful this is, right? So the threshold for them to ask for help is high because they just don't want to do 2 hours of debugging, right, with you. And so they rather live with some of the problems if it's somehow bearable, right, instead of asking for fixing the problems. And that is a pity. And what about problems that only occur now and then and are hard to reproduce, right? And let's say they only occur on CI and are hard to reproduce. Oh my goodness, right? And we've all been there. So with Gradle.com, you can now easily share your build receipts. And you can create a public build receipt to share it, to file a bug on Gradle. You will be able to determine what exactly is shared, right, to filter out all kind of sensitive properties and things like that. You can file a JIRA issue, and you can notify the build team directly, even if you don't know who they are. Think about large distributed teams. It's not always clear who's responsible for the build. Well, just let me tell them something is wrong, right, and please figure it out. So the last example I want to show is a simple example about seeing trends. It is based on a real example from one of our clients. So when you look at this build receipt, what you can see is there are some builds that take longer, much longer than the other build, 13 minutes. And so you can now sort according to build time. And you can now click, and you can now see, oh, slow resolution, more than average resolution time. You can see this location is Bangalore. You check out one of the other long-running builds, and you see slow resolution and location is Bangalore. And that gives you a hint. In this case, people understood, they don't have a mirror of their binary repository. So they're getting all the dependencies from Northern America, and that was, they were paying a high build time cost for that. And the real-time story, that this was a team of hundreds of developers in India, wasting a lot of time until by chance this was discovered, right? So we will provide a much more efficient UI to explore those kind of problems, but even on that level, it's an invaluable help. It is geos, it is Gradle versions, OS versions, your custom plugin versions that can have a tremendous effect on performance and quality of service. You want to make sure that everything is optimized, and with the data you get, you can now even put dollar amounts to it, right? That's deep insights into the build is invaluable. So, build receipts, summary. It's snapshotting of the state and timing of each and every build. You can share it, you have historic knowledge of all the builds, securely stored online, and you have deep knowledge and analytics capabilities. Which means efficient problem-solving capacity, right? Developers get back to work, not hunt for what turns out to be a known issue or other problems. Ability to collaborate quickly to solve problems via the build, I think that's key. And especially problems on the local build, right? So many build teams mostly focus on the CI. Now you have a deep insight into the local builds where most of the developer build time is spent, right? And see trends, practices, and usage behavior across your whole organization. So, want to get onto that future? Sign up at Gradle.com, take part in the private beta once this is live. So we want to start with a small beta, then extend it to a larger beta, and then announce GA later this year. We are super, super excited about that, something we wanted to do for a long time. And now, it's funny, now every day I now run into a problem where I'm saying, damn, I wish I had a build receipt for that, right? It's kind of, I think it will be extremely, extremely helpful. Thank you very much and enjoy the show.